Bradford City continue their 2026-27 Carabao Cup campaign with a second round clash at home to Burnley FC, and in today's video you're going to find out how both teams have got on so far this season, the last meeting between the two clubs, 3 opposition key players, and also my starting 11 for this game. If you do go on to enjoy, please make sure to drop a like on there for me and subscribe to the channel as well. If you are new, can we try and hit 200 likes on today's video? And don't forget to get your thoughts in down in the comment section down below. Let me know down below your score prediction for this match and what would your starting 11 be as well. Would you make any changes from Thursday's victory over Sheffield Wednesday? Speaking of that win against Sheffield Wednesday, that was our most recent fixture. Fantastic win really. I don't think many teams are going to go away to Wednesday, pick up all 3 points and keep a clean sheet, so that is a real big win for us. Prior to that one, we had a 2-0 win at home to Peterborough United. Pretty straightforward routine win really. Everyone expected Bradford City to win, and we were able to do that thanks to a couple of second half goals. And obviously we started out the season with a 2-0 win at home to Rochdale in the Carabao Cup. Again, pretty straightforward. Rochdale were alright for the first 5 or 10 minutes or so, but bar that, it was very comfortable, and obviously it has seen us through into the next round where we will play Burnley. Speaking of Burnley, they had a 3-1 defeat most recently away at West Brom. Now West Brom are a pretty decent side, but Burnley obviously will be very disappointed with this result, given I know they've had some pretty tough fixtures to start of the season, but just 1 point from their opening 2 games as a newly relegated side from the Premier League certainly is not ideal for them. I watched their 2-2 draw last week, or the week prior, against West Ham, and I thought first half they were a bit lacklustre, but second half they were creating a lot of chances. Jan Fleming, unlucky to only score 2 goals in the game really. He obviously didn't play against West Brom, and I would assume that if he's not played against West Brom in a league game, he's not going to be playing against Bradford City in a cup game, but he is a top player, Premier League standard in my opinion, and that from 2-0 down is not a bad point for Burnley really. And they also had a 1-1 draw at home to Notts County in the first round of the Carabao Cup, where they scraped through 4-3 on penalties. Again, Jan Fleming scoring in that one. Burnley have scored 4 goals in competitive matches so far this season. 3 of them have been scored by Jan Fleming, who didn't play in their most recent game, and the other one was an own goal. So take from that what you will, but it's certainly not a bad place for Bradford City to be looking at their lack of goals in their opening couple of matches, and especially considering we're still yet to concede in any competitive game so far. In terms of the last time out between these two sides, competitively anyway, I wasn't even born the last time that these two sides did meet each other, and it finished in a 2-1 defeat for Bradford City on that day. Danny Cadamarteri scoring the only goal of the game for Bradford City, and I think it was Robbie Blake, who I feel like used to play for Bradford. Surely that is the same Robbie Blake, right? He also scored, and typically Bradford City lost it in the 90th minute. But there's actually a few players on here that I did recognise. Now, given that it was before my time where I was, not even born, I wasn't even on the planet, then I don't recognise all of these players. But Mark Bauer, obviously, David Weatherall, Paul Heckingbottom now, the Preston manager, Wayne Jacobs, Danny Cadamarteri, obviously his son, Bailey Cadamarteri, is now playing for Wrexham, and obviously Dean Windass. Apologies to the other players that I can't really say I've heard of before, but apparently we only had 1 sub on the bench. Was this a thing back in 2004? You only had 1 sub? I'm not so sure, but hopefully we have the reverse scoreline in this game. In terms of some opposition key players for this one, given that Burnley have just come down for the Premier League, there is a lot of quality in their side. Kyle Walker is probably a name that everybody does know a lot about. Got his move to Burnley last summer and has played in all of their competitive matches so far. He's played at right back and I think played as a centre back on Saturday as well. Obviously he is now 36 years of age, obviously not as rapid as he once was, but a lot of experience, played at many tournaments for England, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him start in this game. I think he was captain on Saturday as well, but yes, he is way past his prime years, he is past his best, but he's still a very good player coming up against a League One Bradford City side, so obviously you have to highlight an England international. Jacob Brun-Larsen is another player which, given that he played in the first round against Notts County, might start in this game, and again I've been quite impressed with him so far. Burnley Burnley signed him last summer to play in the Premier League and only got 1 goal contribution in 28 appearances. Hasn't got one so far, but I thought West Ham looked like a pretty decent threat, and obviously Burnley have got a lot of talented players. Marcus Edwards, for example, on the other side, Ramsey in the 10. You know, these are some very quality players, but I think from what I've seen of this Larson fella, he seems like he could be a threat on either the left or right side. And also young defender Max Elaine, who's just been signed by Burnley from Man City. I know it didn't, get off to amazing things on his debut here, where obviously he's conceded 3 goals and dropped a 6.2, but very highly thought of young player. He's still only 21 years of age, given he's come through the Man City academy, will certainly be very comfortable on the ball. Got a couple of appearances last season in the first team for Man City in the Premier League, but very talented young centre-half, and I think it'll be a different type of test for Jake Beasley, Nick Powell, Will Swan, Caden Jackson, whoever plays up front, if they're potentially coming up against 2 centre-backs with the experience of Kyle Walker and the youth of Max Elaine. Before we do go any further though with today's video, please make sure to drop a like on there for me and subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. Can we try and hit 200 likes as said at the start of today's video, and don't forget to get your thoughts in down in the comment section down below. Let me know down below your score prediction and starting 11 for this game. I'm backing Bradford City for a 2-0 home win. In terms of my team then for this game, I think we've certainly got to factor in that Bradford City are now going to be playing Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, and that features a very long trip down to Plymouth Argyle. I would stick with the 3-4-2-1 formation, but I would make a fair few changes for this game, and we'll come on to my reasons for that in a moment. In goal, I would stick with John McCracken. He obviously played in the first round, given when we played against Rochdale, Cameron Dawson hadn't even signed for the football club. It was Sam Walker who was on the bench for that game, but I've been incredibly impressed with McCracken so far. Still yet to concede a goal in a competitive match, made a number of brilliant saves against Sheffield Wednesday, and from what we've seen of John McCracken and what we know of Cameron Dawson, I do think it makes sense to keep McCracken in for these type of games, and really I only see Dawson playing in the EFL trophy. In terms of my back three, I would make a couple of changes for this one. Firstly, at right centre back, I would bring in Reece Welch. Obviously, he's only had a handful of minutes off the bench in the first round against Rochdale so far, but I think given what we saw of him in pre-season, looks like a very comfortable young defender. Matt Pennington, while he has been part of a defence that still haven't conceded yet, you can see that Pennington does have the odd mistake in him. I don't think he's been amazing. I think you know what you're going to get with Pennington. He is a 6 or a 7 out of 10 in most matches, but he does have the odd mistake in him, and I would like to see Welch get an opportunity in this game. In the middle of my back three, I would go with Joe Wright. Obviously, very different skill set to Aidan Baldwin, who's had an incredible start to this season. Not only the 2 goals that he has scored in the 3 matches so far, both of them from set pieces. We've scored from a set piece in every competitive game so far, but I think Baldwin defensively has been absolutely brilliant. He dealt with Jamal Lowe incredibly well, especially in that second half against Sheffield Wednesday, but it's an opportunity for Joe Wright, who obviously missed out in the game against Sheffield Wednesday with a very minor knock. Alexander was hoping that he'd be back in training last Friday, if not Monday yesterday. So I would like to see Joe Wright get an opportunity in this one to see if he can maybe work his way back into the side. And then given the lack of options at the moment at left centre-back, I would stick with Macaulay Gillespie. There's lots of rumours about different players that could potentially be signing. We're linked with about 4 players at the time of recording, and apparently the deals are done, and then some people are saying, well, certain players are still in training, so I'm just not even going to bother talking about them. Gillespie, I think, is certainly grown into the role. I thought he was brilliant against Sheffield Wednesday, and I would like to see him get another start in this one, pretty much because he has to, because we've got no one else who can play there. In terms of my midfield 4, firstly at right wing back, I would stick with Josh Nerfill. Again, I thought Nerfill was fantastic against Sheffield Wednesday. He had that mistake in the first half which nearly led to a Sheffield Wednesday goal, just kind of switching off, taking a bit of a heavy touch. John McCracken was forced into a decent save, but second half especially, I thought he was absolutely outstanding, especially defensively. Was a big threat going forward, taking on his man, using his pace, and again, he's the only player who can play in that position at this moment in time. In terms of my 2 deeper midfielders, firstly, I would bring in Henry Cartwright, and I would also partner him alongside George Lapsley. So 2 changes in those positions. We know about the injury record of Callum Connolly, we know about it of Anthony Sarcevic as well, and I just think when you know Bradford City have got a lot of games coming up over the next couple of days. I would rather rest the Sarcevic or a Connolly or a couple of the players for this game, and then you don't wear them out. It also gives an opportunity to these type of players. We saw Alexander rotated his squad quite a lot in the EFL Trophy and also the EFL Cup last season as well, and I think it's a good opportunity, especially if Burnley are going to be very strong technically. Then obviously Cartwright and Lapsley have got very different skill sets to Sarcevic and Connolly. There's a lot more pace, a lot more mobility in there. Maybe not quite as good on the ball, so I think it's good that we've certainly got different options in those positions, but I would like to see more of especially Henry Cartwright, because I have liked the look of him so far. And completing my midfield four, at left wing back I would stick with Ibu Toure, and he would be my captain for this game. Again, given that Tyreek Wright is currently out injured, he is the only option who can play in that position. I thought Toure, again, especially second half against Sheffield Wednesday, was absolutely brilliant. Hopefully he can have another good game in this one. It'll be tough for him up against some tricky Burnley wingers, but I think he's proved so far that he's looking much better this season than what he did last year. And then finally, in terms of my front three, firstly, as my right attacking midfielder, I would bring in Adam Phillips. Obviously, he hasn't started a game yet for Bradford City. He missed a couple of weeks of pre-season and was catching up from a fitness point of view and all that sort of stuff, but this is the perfect game to give him 60, 70 minutes, see what he's all about really from the off in a competitive game. So I think he's shown flashes and glimpses on off the bench, got the assist for our second goal against Peterborough, and I think obviously he's been competing with Caden Jackson in that position, who really has not had a good start to the competitive season despite having a really strong pre-season. So I would like to see Phillips start on that right side. On the left side, I would bring back in Will Swan. Obviously he started the first two games, was on the bench against Sheffield Wednesday, and I think had a really positive impact on off the bench. It did Swan. And again, when we're thinking about rotation, keeping players on their toes, we know Swan had a great start to last season, certainly from a goal scoring point of view, and his first goal I think did come in the Carabao Cup against Blackburn, so hopefully he can get one in this one against another Lancashire side. And then finally, as my striker, I would stick with Jake Beasley. There is certainly a lot of questions to ask here. You know, can you rely on Nick Powell to start this game and maybe bring on a Jake Beasley? But if then Nick Powell does get an injury, that would be a massive blow for Bradford City, so it is a very high risk. I think Beasley certainly seems incredibly fit, and I think he'll be fine to start the next 4 matches, for example, because he normally comes off after about 70, 75 minutes for Nick Powell, so I think doing that is fine. Beasley, I think, has worked incredibly hard so far. Very unlucky not to score, only really had one half chance against Sheffield Wednesday, and that was well saved by their goalkeeper, but really like what I've seen so far from Beasley. I just hope he can get his first goal soon, and if that comes against the Burnley side, that'll obviously give him a hell of a lot of confidence. On the bench then for me, that would leave Cameron Dawson, Aidan Baldwin, Callum Connolly, Anthony Sarcevic, Caden Jackson, Bobby Poynton and Nick Powell. I know that might seem like quite an attacking bench, but obviously you've got Baldwin who can cover the centre-backs, Connolly can play there if you need, Jackson can cover at wing-back, you can move Lapsley somewhere and put Sar somewhere, and then obviously the likes of Poynton and Powell used in those positions for the attacking substitutions really. So the only player currently unavailable is Tyreek Wright, who's going to be back in around the end of October, early sort of November time with that quad injury, but Wright does have a good history of returning from injuries earlier than what the original diagnosis does say, so that is certainly a positive. So the only players who miss out then through selection would be Matt Pennington. It seems quite harsh because I really don't think he has been that bad, but I think Baldwin has been better. Also missing out would be Oscar Lunn. Stephen Humphries, who is still building up his fitness. I've just realised you get 9 subs in the Carabao Cup, don't you? So completely ignore me. I'm going to stick Matt Pennington and Harry Ibbotson on the bench as well. So the only players that would miss out through selection would be Oscar Lunn and Stephen Humphries. So yeah, you get 9 subs in the Cup. Completely forgot that. Stick Pennington and Ibbotson on the bench as well. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there then for today's video. If you have enjoyed, please make sure to drop a like on there for me and subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. Can we try and hit 200 likes as I said at the start of today's video? And don't forget to get your thoughts in down in the comment section down below. Let me know down below your starting 11 for this game. Do you agree with my team? Would you make any changes from Thursday's victory over Sheffield Wednesday? And what is your score prediction? I'm back in the Bantams for a 2-0 home win. I think Burnley are going to make a lot of changes, focus on their league match, and hopefully that means Bradford City can get through into the 3rd round like we did last year. Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you very soon for another one.